You know, back in the days when Jesus was walking this earth during his time of ministry, Friday was a really tragic day for his disciples and for all those people that loved him and had followed him for so long. And they had felt his love with them so much. Powerful, powerful love. And they had listened. Hi, you can come up. They had listened to his wisdom and been lifted up by his teachings. And with their own eyes, they had seen him heal sick people, and people who were blind give them sight, and people who couldn't walk say, stand up and walk, and they could do it. And they even saw him some of them bring people back to life who had died. His good friend Lazarus had been dead for 4 days. He had been in the tomb, and it took a while for him to get there because everybody had to walk in those days. And when he got there, he just said, Lazarus, come forth. And he did. This man who'd been in the tomb for 4 days came out. And this was the Messiah that they had been waiting so long for. And then they saw him on Friday be killed like an ordinary person, just like the thieves that were on both sides of him. And they couldn't understand how that could happen. And his disciples who were with him day and night, they just, how could this happen? This man who was so wise, and they knew he was the one that they had been waiting for ages. And they were scared, and they were confused, and they were worried what's going to happen to us. And so they went into hiding. And then on Sunday, they didn't know that everything was about to change. From all that fear and all that sorrow that they had, it was about to disappear and change into incredible joy. But, they were confused because, sometimes when we're scared, we forget things that are important. And they forgot certain things that Jesus had told them. But Mary Magdalene and one or two, sometimes they say one, sometimes they say two, other ladies went to the tomb where they had laid Jesus. And they had oil and spices and herbs. And they were going to, they say, anoint his body. It was a loving thing that they did. It was their custom for someone who had died. And so they went to the tomb where he had been laid, and there had been a huge boulder put in front of the opening of this tomb so nobody could get in. But when the ladies got there, that boulder had been rolled aside. They didn't know how. And they went inside, and Jesus' body was not there. And they started crying. They thought somebody had stolen it. And they were crying, and then they looked up, and there was this man who was shining with light, and his robe was like snow white. And he knew why they were there. And he said, "Woman, why are you seeking the living among the dead? Jesus is not here. He has risen." And then they remembered. He had told them he would do that. He had told them 3 days after he would rebuild the temple, and that was his way of saying, I will come back. And so they gathered up their things, and the man said, go tell your brethren in Galilee. Or go tell your brethren, that because they weren't there yet, they were hiding. And so they went down the road a little while, and Mary Magdalene saw a man up ahead of her, but she didn't recognize him. But when she got close, he spoke her name. And he said, Mary. And when she heard that, she knew that voice. And she looked closely and she knew it was her Lord. It was Jesus. And it wasn't like a vision and it wasn't like a spirit. It was a true physical body. And she knew he was alive. And he said, go and tell, he said kind of the same thing as the other man, go and tell your brothers what you have heard and tell them, go to Galilee. I will meet them there. And so off they went, and they knocked on the door and went in, and they told the disciples what had happened, what they saw, what they had been told. And the disciples didn't believe them. It was, how was that possible? They were still filled with that fear and with that sorrow that they had. And then Peter thought about it, and he remembered the 3 days. This was the third day. And he said, I believe. And so little by little they thought, maybe it's true. And they went to Galilee, and Jesus came to them there. And when they were able to touch his body and hear him say some of the same words that he said to them the last time that they ate together before he died, and they knew, oh, it's him, it's really him. And what it meant to them was everything changed. Where they had started to doubt and wonder, were these things true? Was this really the Messiah? They knew. They were so happy. They knew he was the Messiah. They knew everything he had taught them was true. They knew that if they followed their teachings, those teachings, and they gave their life as they had done those last 3 years, that this was the beginning of something that would change the world. And Jesus told them, go forth, share these teachings with everyone, everywhere who has ears to hear. And it was the beginning of something that we still learn from and still celebrate this day. And then just before he rose to join his Father in heaven, he said the most beautiful words, because they were asking, can you stay with us? Can you stay with us? And he looked at them and he said, lo, I am with you always, even until the end of the world. And those words were just for them. They were for us, for everyone, everywhere, at all times. Happy Easter.